Hello people of YouTube, this is Silva bringing you guys a Safariland only mounting solutions and holsters. I'm just giving you guys my actual experience through changes and updates and different variations of setting up your holster and holster mounting systems. So just to give you a little quick background, I am currently in armed security. I've been doing it for well over 4 years. My experience has only been in that for the 4 years of owning holsters. My only company of choice would be Safariland. Not to knock it that any other company isn't as good, but Safariland is used by trained professionals, militaries, law enforcement. So for me, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for anybody else, and it's accessible, why not use it? For armed security, obviously, you tend to need to have minimum levels of certain companies, depending of a level 2 of retention. Now, I'll break it down later on once I get into the video as far as what Safariland says specifically. This is just for me in purposes of showing people what I own, what I've used in the past, what I currently use, and my opinion. So in the comments, obviously, we can get into the topics of talking about the equipment and everything. My last video that I did for my actual duty belt carry current setup, it's been really good. I like the whole comments of it. So I really truly appreciate the community, and really, for me, it's a learning experience. I've learned, obviously, through hard-earned money and expense to use all this stuff and see if it works for me or if it doesn't. Like I said, some things have changed as far as my loadout and how I can really change things out, thankfully. Obviously, training is an important thing for you to have. As much as you carry a gun, you have to train and do everything to the best of your abilities. So anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and start with the breakdowns of every single one. So also, for future, every firearm that's on here except the taser, it's still loaded. Everything else has been safety checked. So there's no ammunition in the guns, there's no magazines. Everything is out. So, all right, just as a little, let everybody know. So, as you see in front of you in the camera view, I have both the traditional SLS, which would be the actual HK, and the actual taser is a traditional SLS, which is just the self-locking system. So with that system, for this holster, it is pretty much considered a level 2, meaning the retention that's inside the holster, which is a suede like kind of material, it actually holds a certain type of retention. Also, it has retention screws on the bottom and in the back. Because this one is only a light mount, there is a second screw, rather than in traditional, say for instance, this style is a ALS, excuse me. But if it were just to be an SLS version, it would only use the screw for this. So we'll get to this one eventually, but back to the SLS though, to get a little distracted. This right here gives you what they call the level 1 from the suede. So what makes this a level 2 is the SLS, the self-locking system. Now you may think or see, why is this right here? With just this strap and the inside lining, it makes it a level 2. So in most job places, they'll require you to have a level 2. Now this is only in specific to Safariland products. I'm going to emphasize that. I don't know as much as the levels as far as for Blackhawk, Uncle Mike's, or any other company. For this video, it is only Safariland. And it's only going from the period of the SLS, because this is the experience that I've had with this holster. Obviously, changing times, there are upgrades to more better improved, and then there's obviously more when more improved ones later on or more current. So with this though, it is just basically suede, and the strap is what keeps the holster, the firearm, locked in its place. And like I said, this one comes with the light. So, and for anybody that wants to find out, this is a 6280 922 for the HK. I believe the last code number is 121, which makes this the STX tactical finish, and is really good finish. I've had this for 4 years, and it has been nothing but a great holster. So again, back to getting a little sidetracked with it. The firearm goes in, and that's one form of retention. You can shake it, and it might eventually come out, but the actual suede in itself keeps it locked up in one form. And again, this version is also an older product version, but it is meant for my cocked and locked version. So I can use this holster in a decocker safe or fire double action, single action, and I can carry it like this. The only downfall is, I mean, there is no movement due to the fact of the light being in its proper form, rather than if I were to run a Surefire, it would tend to rock the holster. This is actually a little bit, but the movement that it has versus a Surefire, you could really wiggle the firearm around it, which in my opinion is not safe. So for the next level, which is this little thing, is a level 3, which in this configuration makes it a level 3, which it does not allow the firearm to be pulled out. Even if you were to pull it out, you would still have to break and push the firearm forward and then rotate the hood forward. But you got yourself a problem if someone's able to get to your gun like this. Now, another thing. This is for people that are interested in looking at the products, and it's information only. It's not meant for anything else. This is all just in my experience and what I've learned and training with this equipment. So it's a great thing to have as far as a level 3 for this style of a holster. But with the ALS, it adds more when you bring the hood down. So this is just the SLS version, okay? Now, for the ALS system, I'm gonna be off camera for a second. For the ALS system, which I also have the other holsters, but I'm gonna use take it off because I want to use my HK still in the actual. I can carry this without the light, and it gives me the ALS system. Now it gives me a level 1, which I will say in reference, this is considered a level 1 holster because it only uses a friction lock, which is the ALS, only to allow the weapon to be released. With the ALS on this one, making it a level 2. So pretty much in comparison, it's like having the SLS without the actual strap, which goes around the actual firearm. This, it actually allows you to have the cover to block the thumb brake. So if you were to get it, you would really have to push it forward and then release the firearm. So that's that. So we already went ahead with the ALS system and the SLS, which right now, like I said, this holster is more of a range, outdoor, indoor range, if you're allowed in indoor ranges. If you're an outdoor, by all means go with whatever. You don't necessarily need to have retention. For me, like I said, for the purposes that I use this equipment is when it comes to carrying it and when it comes to training. This right here is not much of a training. I'd rather train with what I have, which is this holster right here, which you're looking at it like, what in the heck is going on? You know, like there's a tourniquet mounted on it. Yeah, it is really puts it all in, like, if you're going to carry a gun, you got to carry medical. I already said that in my last video, and now it's really attached to it. So with this is a SLS ALS style. So it has the same strap, but it has the ability to run it with the lock. Now you can't see it because of the finger, and that's pretty much that's like a half part of security of not allowing anybody to hit the button or even engage in it. But we're just going to keep moving on with that because I really want to get to the actual mounting of the equipment, to mount it on the holsters and everything. So we're just going to keep bringing things along and moving along. So for this, since it is a mounting system or mounting option, I use a belt clip attached to the actual holster. So in case if I need to take off the taser, and I can actually change it out, move it around, or if I need to just take this off, it's easily removable. So, traditionally, this is what you get if you're running a duty style holster from Safariland. Now, granted, you can get the paddle version. Now, this is more like if you're going to do like an open carry. They market it as a concealed carry as far as the little clip and the little paddle. Obviously, I've done some changes to it, which is adding a drop point, because this actually drops at about 1.5 inches. So in comparison, if we were to really mount it on the hip, it's a little lower than, just a little bit more comfortable when you're, say, if you're sitting down or on your whatever. This, on the other hand, is when I last said in my old video, for my last video, correction, about 4 months ago, I mentioned about this style of holster, since it is a really strong plastic. And mind you, this is the low ride. So when it's actually on the holster, it sits a lot more lower than traditional mid ride. Mid ride's like, it's already like almost as equal. But anyways, this style, it's good if you're, for armed security purposes, if you're standing, it's great. It's a good length for you to wear on your hip and allowed to, you know, get close to your weapon. Now these other two, which I'm going to get to in a bit, it changes it as far as the length, the drop, and just the style of carrying the firearm when you're on duty. So this is a great thing. They've improved it as far as the company has improved it, but for me and my experience in it, it can get uncomfortable. If you sit down, this thing will push. When it really sits on a hard surface, and it really pushes inward, it gets your hip hurting. So comfort wise, they do provide a pad, which is like I think they market it as a sheet pad, and it helps. It's like putting a towel over it in a way, just to add a little thickness and not so hard, or a pillow more say. So it is more comfort, but it's still there as far as the pressure. If you sit down, or even if you're standing, sometimes it tends to dig in just the wrong way. It's really uncomfortable. So, not for me, as you could tell. I still carry it. I still hold on to it, own it, because you never know. Where you work, they might say they may not like any of these two, the leg holster or my TED blocker swivel. So, but for what I'm doing right now, it's open. I'm able to choose either platform, however way I want to run it. So, thankfully. But I'm not going to run it with this. I had one guy, his name was Kevin. I don't quite remember his last name. His last name was really long anyways. But he was more saying the comparison. This is also kind of adds more to the reasoning why I'm making this video. You know, when people aren't in the market for things, it's really hard to find information out there. I mean, the websites only give you so much information, can only give you have to pretty much purchase it and commit to owning it even more so than ever, you know, like especially in this type of marketing or this type of investments. You know, the leg holsters, they sometimes come out about $200. The leg mounts, the TED blocker, that was $125. I want to say like $130 with shipping. So I mean, for just mounting systems for these holsters is expensive. Not to mention the actual holsters themselves. I mean, it can be pricey. So it is really great to have people that allow you to see these types of things, or let you get perspective on how it is and what it does for you and everything. So for me, I've taken the time and invested in it, you know, and I want to give that information out to people. So to Kevin, this video, you know, could say it's to you, to hopefully helps, and to hopefully help anybody else that wants to get into it. So I'll get to the TED blocker at last, but for right now, the Safariland drop leg holster. This, now mind you, this is a different, it's supposed to be for a double strap, which I've made into just a single with the rougher standard leg that just goes inside the actual belt line. I have had another version, but I didn't quite like it, and since then I've sold it. It was the DSF. It's like a plastic rubber. It was more of a higher ride. This, it actually, you can get it pretty low, like in my opinion, it's the tactical low, which, I mean, unless you're like a SWAT officer or law enforcement agency that allows you to wear these, even corrections or anything else for security, this screams way too tactical. Granted, I've worn it, and I'm not trying to sound like a hypocrite either, But I mean, this is for me to you guys. This information is, you know, my opinion and what I have had. I've used it, I've tried it, I didn't like it. This is right now, it is it's on loan. I've since sold this to somebody else, but I just went ahead and today and borrowed it. So this used to be my kit, even with the accessories that it has on it. It's sitting how it actually works, for me at least. He hasn't necessarily modified it any because he likes the setup how I had it. So this right here works if you're allowed to. It's very comfortable. It's very comfortable, but it screams tactical. Now, my TED blocker, on the other hand, it is, I'm putting this in comparison, actually by chance. I got lucky that the leg holster and the TED blocker are actually this was about to fall right now. They wanted to see a comparison to as far as how low it actually gets. So, I mean, the profile of it isn't as bulky. It's thin, and you see that it actually bends out a little bit, so it bows out. And I am using the QLS system. I use the QLS because since I have different holsters and different firearms, granted 2 are Glocks, but they're, you know, the same thing, but they're just different holsters, it allows me to, you know, change out if I choose to. Mainly my Glock is what I carry. This doesn't have, I've seen people run it with a leg strap, which kind of defeats the purpose in some ways, but again, it's what they go with, and I do my things differently. So I leave it the way it is. But this is really good. This is really comfortable. It is leather, and that's what I like about it, at least for the belt part. It's caved a little bit. It's conformed to the body. It bends. It moves around. Granted, this is a front cant, so it goes only forward, and it locks in. So, like, say if you're sitting down, as a reference, if you're really sitting down, it really goes along the actual lining of your leg or chair or your seat if you're in a car. And it is very accessible. Say, for instance, let me just put this, get out of camera frame real quick. It is very accessible to when it's actually on the belt and on your hip. You are able to access your firearm and get to it. So my only thing is it does a little wiggle, but that's just because of the weight that it has on the actual, from the firearm and the holster. Beyond all that, it dances around a little bit, but when it really comes to as far as comfort and the way it carries, it really wears really nice, and the look factor also. So TED blocker, again, amazing. Comparing it to side by side as far as the leg holster size and everything, length. I mean, granted, for me, I'm 5'11", not 6 foot, 5'11", and I have long arms. So for me, the TED blocker tends to be right there at my hand if I need to get my gun, running drills and going actual live fire practice with the holster and everything. It's great. You know, in this job, it's just in any place you want to feel comfortable with what you have and what you wear. So anyways, pretty much it's been a long video, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, again, comments, and concerns, subscribe. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.